Hello everybody, I'm here with Radu from ContentSpeed. He's the founder and CEO of ContentSpeed, which is an e-commerce platform that recently got sold to an international group. Radu, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's such a pleasure to have you on board. First, a quick disclosure for everybody. We've actually met each other for, I think, a few years ago, and we started working together on one of your clients in the jewelry space. That being said, Radu, you have quite an interesting story. I would love for you to tell us exactly how this whole thing got started, how you ended up in tech, and how you ended up opening ContentSpeed.
Well, we start from the very beginning. Well, I was, a geek, tech lover from my childhood. And I remember I wanted to buy a computer, and I realized the best way to do it is by using e-commerce. So I found out about e-commerce in year 2000, I think.
Right.
I managed to browse websites so that I can see some stores from the United States, and managed to place an order that arrived at my house in Romania. And then I had the revelation that this is going to be the way that people will get things, buy things in the future. And this was a crazy vision at that time in Romania, as you can imagine. People were using faxes to place orders and so on. Very few people were using email when I started out. So this is the beginning. And then there was years of pitching Romanian businesses to start doing e-commerce, right? And finally we got to the 2020 when everybody wanted to do e-commerce, because traditional shops were closed. And this is fast forward, but I guess you want to know about intermediary steps as well.
For sure. You know what? Let's actually take it straight from the beginning. So, one interesting fact about you that not many people know is the fact that you've attended technical high school. One of the few in the country at a time that had IT programs.
Actually,
or mathematics.
I learned about programming in first year of university. Computer science. I applied for computer science. To learn something about programming in high school, I had to have a private teacher. So because the high school didn't teach any informatics, but our CTO was in a high school that taught programming. So maybe this is why I'm the commercial guy and he's the tech guy now.
Don't sell yourself short. I've engaged with you long enough to know that you have quite a deep understanding of your product and technical architecture and how everything ties together.
Yeah, well, I used to be a programmer at some point. Yeah,
for sure. Now, on the topic of those early days, one thing that I found interesting was the fact that you actually attended high school with another one of Romania's tech leaders, Ioan Iacob, who opened Qualitans and later on Flowx, which raised the second largest round in EU. And you guys were sort of quite close together in the year. I'm not sure if you were friends or if you've met each other, but
we knew each other. But, we were in neighboring classes actually. Same year with Ioan and with his associate who was also with us. Radu, yeah.
Yeah. The reason I brought them up is because your high school is somewhat known, or not sure if it's public, but your high school actually managed to pump out quite a lot of talent during those early days. So just from your guys' year, we already have 3 successful entrepreneurs who somewhat shaped the industry in Romania. Because let's not sell yourself short. ContentSpeed is a brilliant company. It was very early in the making of what e-commerce came to be in Romania.
We had to educate the market at some point. Yeah,
I think you're still educated at that stage in some regards, no matter how advanced we are. But you were at the right time and right place with something that you believed in, meaning e-commerce and selling goods online. And E1 came to it with the software programming background, and they wanted to first outsource the testing aspects of software development and then take over that. And it's funny to look at one single high school from Romania, same year, and we have 3 successful entrepreneurs. Is there something that I don't know that happened back then that set you guys on this winning path, or it's just all a coincidence?
I'm not sure. I mean, statistically, there's a strong chance that that could happen by hazard. But what unites us is that we were taught, I think, mathematics the hard way. There were good teachers, but rough teachers in that high school, and we were lucky to have to be taught English by native speakers. There was a time when there were volunteers from the Peace Corps that came to teach us English, and we had teachers from Romania that taught us grammar, for instance, and all kinds of Americans that taught us, to do conversation, and we met people from the United States, on a regular basis at the high school. Maybe this could make a difference. I don't know.
For those times, it's fairly international.
Yeah.
So it is quite surprising. So you finished high school and then you ended up joining.
And then I studied computer science to the university, and realized that if I follow through with all that is taught there, I won't be a successful professional. Because what they taught in computer science at that time was already obsolete. So you were taught how to learn, actually, and then you had to learn whatever was cool then.
What were you taught, Pascal and Fox Pro, or?
C, ANSI C. But that was enough for me, because I didn't know any programming at that time. I learned. I had a good teacher, very good teacher. But after first year, I got bored. I set up the company. And me and my associate, the CTO, Bogdan Nitsa, we sent an email to 40 or 50 email addresses that we got from the Yellow Pages, and said, we are, computer science students, and we know how to develop websites, maybe we can work. And out of 50 email addresses, one contacted us. And unfortunately, it wasn't an easy project. It was a company that sold tires, and in order to present their product catalog, they needed to have some kind of interaction. You had to enter tire dimensions, so that you can see an offer, and that was hard at that time. The few people that knew how to do websites, they actually did HTML cosmetic stuff.
I was one of those guys
no
back
problem.
in the early days.
And of course, I said, "Can you do it?" Yes, we can, but we didn't. We were going to learn. In what time frame? 2 weeks. Everything was 2 weeks with the university, so we said the same thing. And then, and then I remember there was a big lesson for me about negotiation, because one of the owners of the company, the client company, asked how much would the website cost, and I said something, and he said 20%. I said okay, up front.
Do you remember what the prices were?
Yeah, unfortunately, I asked for $300, and he offered 60. But it didn't really matter, because we lived with our parents, and we just wanted to have real action.
How old were you? Were you 18, 19?
I think I was 19, something like that.
So you came out of high school, you joined computer science.
Let me tell you this story, because it's really interesting. And we had to do the tire store, the tire offering, and we went home. We learned how to program that, by searching on Alta Vista, because there was no Google at that time. And in 2 weeks we showed up, but 2 weeks were like programming should be learned actually. It was day and night because we didn't know anything about databases, about anything. We had to discover those things. And we managed to do the search, to do the website for the client. The client bragged about it to his suppliers. And in 6 months, we sold the same kind of functionality with $1,200, $3,000, and last time we sold it for $14,000. I remember that my dad had a salary like 700 and was a general manager. So this happened over 6 months period, and we had a revelation about business and technology, and and then we set out to do e-commerce. But with e-commerce, I think things happened a lot slower than we hoped for. But this is the beginning. We started out with tire stores.
There's something that I want to dig in here, because when you started building websites for clients and you spammed Yellow Pages and you got your first client,
it wasn't spam at that point, but there was no law.
For sure. But back in those days, as a programmer, you would custom build each and every website, right? You didn't really have frameworks, you didn't have any libraries to help you out. Everything was built from scratch.
Yeah.
And it was built custom to the needs of the client, that usually didn't have any clue what they actually needed or not.
Yeah.
There were no data structures, no process mapping of any kind.
Yeah.
To get from that, and exactly as you put it, you sold the same kind of functionality to another client, another client, and another client. That brings us closer from, that takes us from custom work to a SaaS model, where you sell pre-written code, just maybe slightly packaged in a slightly different way. Yeah. Did you have a big revelation? All of a sudden, did it come to you, hey, hang on, I should start selling software as a service? Or was it a slower transition through time? Because even when it comes to e-commerce, like shops, you would have to build each and every one of them differently. There weren't really pieces of code you could reuse.
Unfortunately for me, I wasn't a business guy. We were, at that point, this is year 2000, we were very happy that we could do something that we were passionate about. We didn't think about the business part.
Right.
But later, what happened is that outsourcing businesses kicked in, and programmers started to cost a lot. And we were kind of forced to think more about the business side. And there was an intermediary phase where we had a product, but we started from the product when we did custom work for each client.
Right.
Which was no good as well. And then, and this was 8 years ago, I think, we realized that we need to go to SaaS, to software as a service. And we call this single core, meaning that all customers had the same code base.
Right.
And we just, customized layout and so on. But this was not referring to code, but rather information in a database. So, and we needed to upgrade all clients to this, which was an effort that took another 3 years because we were already popular. We had lots of clients. And after this, the business kicked in. I mean, our recurring revenue grew sustainably, and that's when we started to grow, because recurring revenue covered most of our fixed costs, and then we had the liberty to be more creative and so on. Before that, we had to finish every month. We had to finish some kind of projects just to be able to survive, which was tough.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
At the same time, another interesting timeline is you guys have started ContentSpeed back in the early 2000s. As you were building code and getting clients and understanding more and more about e-commerce, even if it was from sort of a local outlook, looking at Romania. At the same time, or close to that time, over the pond, you had WordPress coming up.
Yeah.
That was one of the first massive CMS plays, right?
First open source competitor was what is called now OS Commerce.
Right.
Which entered at that point. We already had our own framework, and we couldn't use it, but it was fun to have some competition,
right?
Because this is healthy. I mean, otherwise we could think about that we are the best or something like this. So, and then WordPress, came in. And we needed to position our offering according to this kind of competition. And this is actually true now, when there's far more companies that offer services like ours. But we were lucky enough that the growing number of competitors came along with the growing number of customers.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of business for everybody.
The demand was on par. What I was curious about was when you first laid your eyes on either OS Commerce, which was, even if it was the first open open platform, open software. I think for me at least, I had somewhat of a revelation when I first opened the CMS from WordPress. So having all of those options, those preloaded templates, that was something that was quite interesting, and I could see that, hey, this is going to be something that's going to be big. You guys already had something. You were deploying similar technology. It's just that it wasn't open, and the onboarding wasn't as quick as you had it with WordPress. What I was curious about was what was your impression when you first saw, or did you see a CMS that inspired you from an admin point of view, that you said, we need to get this into our platform as well?
But we got inspiration rather from SaaS companies, because I have to say, and I have to be blunt about it, open source doesn't have a real future, because it has a bottom idea that says that programmers are by the millions, which is not. I mean, you said that onboarding for WordPress is fast, but you still need to use FTP, upload something, and that's not mass market. Mass market is like what Shopify does, for instance, and that's rather our model. When you don't have to touch any code, you just fill in some web forms, and then there's an onboarding process that says this is step 1, step 2, step 3, which WordPress never had. Unfortunately, that's a product.
But they're still a decade apart, Shopify and WordPress.
But WordPress, it has other benefits, I'm sure, and it did a lot of good. I remember that they powered the blogging revolution, which was an important step for the development of internet, if you ask me. But in terms of what we do now, SaaS platforms, everything. I mean, even if you look at venture capital, I mean, the amounts of financing that different competitors have, if you add SaaS companies like Shopify, BigCommerce, Volusion, just to name these 3, and compare to WordPress, Magento, and PrestaShop, it's like open source is 8%.
It's day and night.
8%. So finance people have decided which is the model for the future, and this is what we're doing. We're doing SaaS.
In venture capital, you're always gonna love the recurring revenue, the ARR, of a SaaS model. There is no way around it. It's too juicy to pass along. I want to come back to your first year of college and the incentive to open this internet company, because that's when you first met Bogdan, if I'm not mistaken. Did you guys meet in college?
Actually, Bogdan is my bench colleague from primary school.
From primary school?
No, secondary school. Sorry, from 6th grade. Yeah.
I had no idea, but you two guys, you have a relationship that's long lasted.
Yeah, it's a rare thing, and we cherish our relationship, since we've done a lot of things together already. and we can see that's hard to come by these days.
Right. So let's talk about that. In the early days of ContentSpeed, when you were both sort of coding, what determined the shift? So Bogdan was more focused on the
somebody
technical
had
place
to go
and
to talk to clients, and it was in our group, which was basically all programmers.
yeah.
It was considered a shitty task, you know. And I said I'll do it because I was the leader of the pack, and I'll do it. If you don't want, you continue doing what you love, and I'll do it. And that was a revelation for me, because actually I think I wasn't a tech guy. I was rather more EQ guy, but I didn't know it
At the time,
At
yeah.
the time, yeah. And I started training, using personal development to learn about how to relate to people and so on. Because, let's face it, I was a programmer. Programmers are not known for their outstanding soft skills, right? So, and I'm really grateful for that, because I'm a different person now.
So back to the early days. So you had the first few clients. You got them by emailing, cold emailing, Yellow Pages.
Yeah.
How did your go-to-market or sales strategy or marketing change over time? Because in those early days, it was more or less non-existent.
Well, yeah, but at that point, we didn't know anything about marketing or positioning our offering or anything. Therefore, we were considered the IT people, and we wanted to do web stores, but clients offered other kinds of projects, which we did, like presentation websites, like a printed catalog design, like you name it, even creating a company network for some, because it was the early days.
I know.
And we did all of that, but at some point we realized that we have to position our offering, and first we did all kinds of websites, but that's it, only websites.
Yep.
And then when the time came, and it was possible, we switched to only e-commerce. And this we did because it was far easier for us to prove return on investment to clients. Because, presentation websites, we didn't know if, they reached their objective, right? Because it was all subjective there. But in terms of e-commerce, you paid like this to develop the website, the revenue was like this. So if we allocate 3% to developing the website, then it's fine, right? And we really like being engineers. We really like that we could be evaluated in this cold way, and we can prove return on investment. Therefore, we did only e-commerce. And in terms of marketing, I remember there were two important moments for us in the early days. One was that we started advertising on a traffic statistics website called traffic.ro. When website owners wanted to see detailed statistics for the website, they got to a page, and there we put our banner saying, we do buyback for online stores. And that was really...
What do you mean buyback for online stores?
See, that was the initial reaction. So the few people that had online stores had the same reaction. What do you mean? And we evaluated whatever you had and gave you a mark, and based on that mark you got a discount for our service. But this generated that everybody that had an online store in Romania at that point, and when I mean everybody, I mean 40%,
right?
Talked to us. And that was really the launching of our...
That's some guerrilla type of shit right there.
Yeah, that was it for us. Of course, that generated lots of custom development, because every client had some feature that they developed in the web store, and they needed that in the new store. But we managed to grow sales. Then e-commerce was growing. I remember 2007, We launch an online store now, and by the end of the year, it probably would generate 4 million euros in turnover, because there was, we got into Romania, got into European Union. There was,
Sure.
that nice time for the economy. After that, what happened to us was that probably 80% of clients went bankrupt.
In the 2008 recession,
Because
2009?
yeah, initial adoption for e-commerce was in IT, white goods, washing machines,
Right.
long-term usage goods. And when crisis comes, those are the first items that you stop buying.
Right.
I mean, basically, what's happening right now. In the last 2 months, the same.
I do want to draw some parallels. And before we go into exactly what happened for you guys from your perspective in 2008, just before that, this is some interesting roadmap, because you started by doing everything custom. You slowly built the one core, as you called it, and started selling it as a SaaS. In your boom era, when 40% of the market approached you to start working with you guys, I imagine you were flooded with various feature requests. Now, product people are hard to come by everywhere, but specifically in Romania, it's really difficult to find that sort of mix and balance between technical skills, psychology, business understanding, everything that comes, that's part of a product and the product roadmap. How difficult or how easy was it for you guys to look at everything that clients were screaming for, and they said that they need, they were adamant about it, and it was still up to you to make a decision as to, this feature makes sense and we can scale it up, this feature doesn't make sense, and this feature, even if it's a deal breaker, there's no point in doing it, like too much work for too small of an upside?
We were still learning at this point. So 2008, we weren't using SaaS yet. So it was that time when we started from a core, and then...
What was the model back then? You were asking them a fixed amount at the beginning, so the full project scope to build it for you would be, let's say, 5,000 euros, and then a maintenance fee over time, or what was the structure?
There was a project fee.
Yeah.
And actually that was it.
One time, no maintenance?
Then we introduced maintenance, but maintenance was a number of hours,
Right.
and an SLA,
Yeah.
actually. And then we looked at what other software companies do, namely ERP software companies that charge maintenance, which was typically 25% of the license annually, and we introduced that. But this is in parallel with transitioning to SaaS, so it's 8 years ago. We were talking about 2007, and that was a marketing moment. I mean,
Right.
That's when we discovered marketing, and that's it. What we did with that success, we managed to grow the company to 30 people, right? But then crisis came, we downsized, and
How much did you downsize? From 30 to what?
7.
I can only imagine how painful that must have been.
It wasn't that nice. Actually, I remember that we had a deal with a big bank at that point to offer loans to small businesses,
Right.
to buy our services, to do online stores, and we send out an email campaign, a marketing campaign we got 600 leads, and we had 6 salespeople.
Okay.
And in 2 weeks, I remember there was the news about AAG going default in Ziarul Financiar,
Yeah.
on the left side, and everything stopped. So we had to fire people.
I was curious because it's true that we're going through some turmoils or turbulent times yet again, right? But even if I was much younger, back in 2008, I was still very much aware of what was going on. And I remember I was searching for areas in the market where I thought that some opportunities might jump out.
Well, I can
One of
answer
them,
that. Like, that taught us a big lesson about choosing the right customers.
right.
And
So let's talk about that.
we looked at crisis-proof businesses.
Right. And what were the crisis-proof businesses in 2008 for you guys?
Well, at that point we started looking, so we hadn't really a
There
choice.
were none.
But the portfolio of clients of ContentSpeed now is based on the findings that we did then, and it's simple rather. Businesses that will have continuity no matter are businesses that take care of food and medicine for people and food and medicine for animals. It's as simple as that.
Right.
And we're targeting pharma. I mean, actually, later we were lucky to experiment a story like the tire store that I said earlier with pharma in Romania, where we are now a leader in terms of solutions for online pharmacies, and we're confident that is going to work no matter what happens in the market. Also, we're targeting FMCG, so whatever product that you get from the grocery store and so on, and which is harder to convince to do e-commerce, but when they do, their business flow is continuous. So this is what we did. This is why we're confident, and also what we do when retail slows down is that we focus on B2B, because we also do B2B. We never had the chance to talk about this because our collaboration was based on B2C, right? Where we got to know each other. But B2B is a product that targets distribution companies, and the objective is cost reduction there. So when crisis comes, everybody wants to decrease costs. Therefore, that product of ours becomes more popular.
One thing that's interesting, that's different today than what we went through in 2008 in the previous, financial crisis, was we have a new generation now. The Gen Zs and the millennials. They have more power now than they used to have in 2008. And what's interesting, or at least striking me as interesting this time around, is that we have more and more people who have an entrepreneurial education or drive than we did back in 2008. Because when we started back in the day, being an entrepreneur meant being a patron, right? We had the communist definition of the patron, which was a bad individual usually, right? And it was a bad thing to start a company. Or if you were to start a company, the type of companies that Romanians used to open back then were you either open a guest house somewhere up in the mountains or in the countryside, or open a pastry shop, to the corner store, or just sell papers. Mm-hmm. That was entrepreneurship in Romania by and large, right? This time around, we're seeing, I used to teach at the university. Almost every single one of the students there had an online shop. Before you, I had Georgia from Flip here, right? And in those days, not in those days, but he started by selling cleaning services using like a template website, Nice. So we have more of this hustle mentality now than we used to have back then. And I was curious, in 2009, that's when it struck us here in Romania. Where were the tiny entrepreneurs that were driven and motivated? Did you have new stores open that today are doing quite well, even if they started back then? Or
I remember that that time was an opportunity for established companies to step into e-commerce, because initially there was crazy visionaries doing e-commerce, right? Because they understood that this is the future. But typically these guys didn't know commerce. But their role initially was to prove that the business case was working.
Right.
And then
that people would buy online.
Established companies picked on, and we started having clients that were big brands. We just had to be resilient through that period, right?
Right.
And I think it was 2010 when we got our first investor. It was an ERP company that had something like 100 customers, distribution companies, and we got lots of a big customer pool to do implementation. We grew until, I don't know, 20 people at that point.
From 7 back to 20.
Yeah.
This actually brings an interesting topic to mind, and that is, so we keep talking about resilient and, you know, cockroach type of companies. Yeah. You know, people who would be able to survive an atomic blast, essentially. Mm-hmm. Now, you guys have went through what's essentially the most, you know, the worst downturn in terms of economy in the recent period, back in 2008. You scaled down from 30 to 7 full-time people, and then you grew back to 20. What are some of the traits or lessons learned from this period, besides be careful who you choose as clients? Because sometimes it's not up to you who's going to end up buying your services, you know?
Well, one thing is for sure that whatever you do, this is my understanding of what we experienced, is that things change, constantly change. Mm-hmm. When we started out, people were used to the fact that whatever you do, you can do for 20 years, which is not true. I mean, and we had to be open. We had surprises, like, you know, even the sales pitch. I remember during the crisis, the last crisis, we introduced a conversion rate guarantee, because otherwise we couldn't sell anything. People said, how can you guarantee that my web store is going to do sales? And we were desperate, you know. We introduced this, which was basically a process that was said, we guaranteed that if conversion rate is less than 1%, then we are obligated to do research and propose improvements until we get to 1%, because otherwise people didn't want to do e-commerce.
Right. Was that feasible, even if it was such a hard thing to sell back then? But was it feasible if you had 10 clients who were all below 1% conversion to research each and every one of them?
Well, if you don't do any sales otherwise, yeah, it is feasible.
I get it. But let me ask you this. So for the clients that did end up having less than 1%, I'm sure you must have had some.
Yeah.
Did you have any lessons while you were digging into their business case and their pages that you then learned and managed to apply to some other people and, you know, improve there?
Of course. Although it was a sales pitch,
yeah,
it really helped. First of all, it really helped us to have a good relationship with the client, because most web store developers don't care if you do sales or not. We did, and that was positioning. And then we were faced with all kinds of problems that we needed to solve. And yeah, but normally I remember at that point there was a crisis. So people were using comparison websites to make sure they
get the best offer.
And comparison websites delivered to even 3% conversion rate. So it was easy. Let's plug into let's plug into conversion rates website. And the biggest problem we had was with offline retailers, which experience research online by offline. And you know, the web store typically has the real conversion is double, because half goes online and half of the people go offline to get it. And to tackle this problem, we evaluated how many people visit the store's map, right?
Yeah.
And evaluated that 25% will visit the store, and started from there, so we can prove that there's an impact. At some point, I remember we stopped advertising just to prove, for 1 month, just to prove that sales in
the store,
offline
in the physical store,
will drop if we do that, and then there was no problem.
You've managed to draw that conclusion.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Look, Romania, because we are talking about Romania here. Mm-hmm. Most of your clients were focused on Romania. So way back in the beginning, people would only buy online, but they would pay offline. So they would pay upon delivery. They wouldn't buy high ticket items. They would only buy like gadgets and stuff before they started buying, long life electronics.
Before Black Friday, yeah.
Oh, don't even get me started on Black Friday. So we've constantly had this, in my opinion, slow evolution, because the same people who would have some level of I don't know, objection or resistance to buying online 10 years ago, they had no problem buying online from larger companies outside like eBay or what have you.
It was a trust problem.
Yeah, it was a trust problem. And then we had big players entering the market or promoting themselves as big players. We saw the evolution of Elephant, we saw the evolution of Emag, of Cell, right? We saw everybody pulling in together to further educate the market.
Yeah.
But despite all of that, the actual evolution of the mindset was a slow one, in my opinion. It still took a decade for people to trust buying online. And still seem to have that problem.
I waited through all that, so I know.
Yeah.
But if I were to raise a finger, I would point to big and established businesses that didn't believe in e-commerce initially, because it was a trust issue. So consumers were faced with no-names,
Right.
sellers that adopted e-commerce first. The only advantage that these guys could have was price. Even Emag and Cell that you mentioned started out by being the cheapest on the market. I mean, and there's other players like, let's say, Farmacia Tei, for instance, or this is how e-commerce started. It was dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Okay. And established businesses like companies that sold products in malls, for instance, they looked at online and say, I can't compete with those prices. I'm not going to do anything. But the moment they found a solution, and we were there, we helped lots of
that transition,
that kind of businesses to understand online and deal with the fact that there was high price in the mall and a different price online, so that you can be competitive and so on. When these guys joined the revolution, then consumers had trust, because it was that brand that I buy from when I go to the mall. Now it's online, I can give the card to them, no problem. Okay. But before that, it was only early adopters, and that's why there was a trust issue. Now there's lots of big brands, local big brands online, therefore probably card adoption is 5 times more than 5 years ago. Of course, the pandemic also helped.
Accelerated that quite a lot.
The cash is dirty, but but I think big brands did what was necessary for the trust to be there.
Right.
And plus the fact that millennials are now in power, and I think millennials could try to touch the TV screen like it's a tablet, so they will expect to use the card everywhere.
You've been through so many iterations of your product that I'm wondering how you managed to stay on top of it. And here's what I mean. So you began with a single core. You ended up having a single core. Then the market has changed. It became an SEO play for every single e-commerce store, not just the platforms powering them. Then you had the social media advent, right? Which meant you had to be there, you had to advertise, you had to create focus groups and whatnot. And then we had the influencer boom, right? Which meant that then you had to do brand deals with everybody. And you guys, because you were sort of at the center of the market, connecting all of these, you were connecting social media platforms, you were connecting resellers, you were connecting B2B, you were connecting actual brands, newcomers, new entrepreneurs to the market. You were sort of, you had to be in the middle of it all. Was it easy or hard for you to understand where the market would be a year from now in order to be able to occupy that place and support your clients?
Well, I think based on the fact that our clients, some of them at least, were early adopters, we were lucky enough to see whatever is coming first. Because so one of our clients wanted to experiment with this and this is how we learn about it. Of course, we did research of our own, but I remember we learned about influencers when I think it was 10 years ago, a client of ours paid Andreea Marin to do a Facebook post with the link. And it was Black Friday.
Yeah.
And how can this is how we realize what the power of influencers can be. And we are always trying to experiment along with the client, right? Because there's a history of things that are going to do good. I will give you a simple example, like Google Shopping. When Google Shopping was introduced, it was a short time frame when if you used it, your product showed first in every search, but it was just you, no competition, right? So it was critical for us to deliver that functionality to our clients, educate clients so that they can get the advantage. And thankfully, the advantage took 3 or even 6 months for some industries until everybody started using Google Shopping. So we're always looking for new things to improve. But in terms of the tech behind the platform, the interesting thing, the engineering thing, is that we have to re-engineer the platform all the time without doing anything bad to the client sales.
Right.
And recently we just did that. And the challenge is to discover ways to help the client while rethinking the platform, recoding the platform. And this shouldn't take 2 years, because, for instance, if we want to do a new version of the platform, we get to 20 programmers, we start programming, and in 2 years we have something. But in 2 years there's no revenue. It's a risk, and even e-commerce changes in 2 years. So the trick is to find benefits for the client when you do rethink the platform
and build the car as you're driving it.
Yes, and we wanted to switch to microservices, right? Because
I've had a heated discussion with you about that.
This is the future, and the application that helped us do that was to deliver mobile apps to clients, because mobile apps need to use APIs, and we actually are refactoring the platform to have all the features available for mobile apps, right, through APIs. And now next step is we change the front end, the web front end of the platform to use the APIs.
Do you want to turn ContentSpeed into something headless?
We already do that, actually. We have an implementation with some Brazilian company that does the front end for a mobile app, and we only do the headless part.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and we're on the way.
Let's talk about these innovative features a little bit, because as you said, e-commerce changes quite a lot. The way in which people are shopping for stuff or discovering stuff is rapidly changing, right? So with the advent of what do we have now? We have TikTok and short video formats, right?
Yeah.
So we're seeing a lot of shopping attention moving into that space. The discovery happens on social media like TikTok or YouTube Shorts or Facebook videos, right? And then it's the one-click checkout process that wins. Another thing that I'm not sure if you follow. I'm sure you follow trends. Actually, what's happening in Asia right now? If you want
e-commerce happens in Asia now.
But video e-commerce, like live streaming, it's teleshopping. The 1990s teleshopping from TV. It's now happening on social media.
Yeah,
right. And we're seeing like big platforms moving into like video shopping.
Yeah, well,
or streaming.
You said earlier that we are faced with all kinds of technologies and we need to integrate them all. So we portray ourselves as a connector now, which incidentally has a web front end, a mobile app front end, but basically our platform is a connector. And when you mention one-click checkout, our task there is to get the order and put it through, the processing flow and so on and so forth in terms of a platform. So it's another connection, another
So
integration
let me
that
ask
we
you
have
this,
to
is
deliver.
ContentSpeed now, what's a better description for ContentSpeed today? Is it a middle layer or an e-commerce platform?
Well, at some point, 2 years ago, we introduced a product that is called e-commerce connector, and what it does is that it manages the product offering, but
Right.
you can have a e-shop front end, a mobile app front end, or you could sell on TikTok or on Instagram, or you can sell on marketplaces like Emag, right? And on one hand, and then this is the product information management function, and then there's the order management function where we use our know-how that is specific to Romania, but this is not an easy thing. We have integrations with certified ERP solutions now. So it's easy to process orders, right, with our platform. So our order management system is integrated with that. So it's a connector. I think the platform now is a connector rather than a website.
Right. That's. I'm actually happy to hear this. I'm a strong believer in middle layers, and I think that middle layers will.
And to be honest, now big clients are adopting microservices
As well, within their technical
and
stacks, yeah.
we have projects where the client already has a product information management system, but wants to use our order management and wants to have our mobile app front end, but they already have a web shop front end of their own. So e-commerce becomes more like an ecosystem, right? The search function is done by a third party, so on. So, and I'm happy, that's why I mentioned about rethinking and recoding, because our challenge being a player for 20 years in this market is to continually reinvent ourselves to remain relevant. And I'm happy to say that we're still here. So.
One thing that's always bugged me, for lack of a better word, when it came to ContentSpeed was when I was looking at your platform and I was checking the technical stack, and I've engaged quite a lot with the platform itself, right? All of its components, and they were good. They still are good. So you can do a whole bunch of stuff with them. And what bugged me was, why aren't you guys more international? Because my mantra, and whenever it comes to working with the startups in the accelerator, I'm always telling them, think global from day one. You don't have a big enough of a market in Romania, but you chose to stay here, and you became hyper focused on Romania.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that was a bad call. I'm just saying, why not branch out more or earlier?
It was when we started out, it was different situation than now, and our goal was to become a market leader in some kind of market. And during the pandemic, we realized that the time for e-commerce was then, and we wanted to go out of the country. And there was choices. I mean, I see now that young entrepreneurs want to set up shop in London or New York up front, and that's good, right?
Yeah.
But we chose, in terms of internationalization, to go to nearby countries, because we see that there's
That's not a bad strategy. Emma did it, Olex did it, so.
and there's similar cultures in these countries,
Right.
neighboring countries, and so on. And that's why we went with ASECO, with ASECO ICE, which offers exactly these markets to us. And we did a simple calculus. What do we need to open up shop in a new country? Well, we need an office, we need sales, we need PR, we need marketing, and so on. It's like 250,000 euros for
even
2
that, but-
years of experiment. And we thought, what can we do so that we don't have to spend our profit on that? And entering ASECO SE group was the answer for us, because we got access to resources, access to local know-how, to offices, to everything. And we are really encouraged to do international projects now. So this is our way to go international.
Right. Are you seeing many clients from Romania looking to scale up in other countries while continuing to use ContentSpeed?
Yeah.
So turning the CS platform into multi-lang, multi-tenant.
Let's say there are not many, but far more than in the last 3 years. And we try to pitch this as much as we can. So your experience success here, let's go to this country, and what we're doing now is that we're developing what we have in Romania, like integration with payment gateways, local payment gateways, local couriers, local suppliers for merchandise, localize the platform in languages of nearby countries, so that we can be a one-stop shop to do e-commerce in the SE. This is our goal now, and we're on the way. But there are not so many Romanian entrepreneurs that want to do international. Maybe the young ones are, but owners of traditional businesses,
we still need to educate them further.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what success is looking like. Because you spent 20 years building ContentSpeed. You were one of the forefathers, right? You laid the foundation. No, it's the basic reality. You were one of the first website builders.
Yes.
I remember those times. I was, as you said, one of the guys doing HTML websites. I remember what it was like when a programmer was getting paid 100 euros a month. Right, they were making less money than people who were doing cleaning jobs or odd jobs on sites. So I remember those days and how hard it was for people with engineers, right, to be valued in traditional companies.
Yeah.
I remember what it was like to open a software development or even a consultancy shop on the technical side, and doing everything from fixing printers to installing OSs on systems and servers.
You are the IT guy. You do everything.
You do everything. So coming from that, scaling up, going from financial crisis, scaling down, scaling up again, and now you've transitioned into something new, something that's not well understood in Romania, and that is the process of M&A. So to introduce the process a bit, there's many ways where a company can acquire a different company, and there are many reasons to do it. Typically, the company acquiring a different company, they do it for either they don't want to fight with them on the local map, right? And it's easier and faster to just acquire them. Sometimes you need the talent, so you do what's called an acqui-hire. Other times you need the actual technical know-how, so the actual tech that was written there, so you buy the technology in full with the rights. Other times you just need help scaling up, right? And you want to increase your value as a company, especially if you're listed, right? Or if you have a new investment round coming up, right? And you wanna increase the size of your company, and then you start acquiring. There's many different reasons and ways in which you can acquire companies or get acquired, be a good acquisition target for somebody. Once the acquisition is done, it's not that it's game over. You sold the company, you've made your money, and now you're out. Most often not. That's when the headaches start starting, because you're still responsible for the team you've built. You still have to make sure that the integration process within the mother company, within the spaceship, is smooth or as smooth as possible. There is often binding terms that you have to abide by. So, can you tell us what was the process like for you?
Well, yeah, of course. In a nutshell, for us, we wanted to become part of a bigger group from the very beginning. And
hang on, let's start with this. Why?
You want the childhood story? Well, I read the story when I was 17 years old in Ziarul Financiar. IT section about what was then called the dot-com boom, right? When a teenager was doing some website, and then they created a company, and the company was evaluated at $400 million, and they sold the company. Right. So this is how I understood what M&A is, at an early stage, and I wanted to get to that, okay? And I continuously saw our company ContentSpeed as a product.
Okay.
For this kind of transaction.
For somebody to acquire it.
Yes. And actually, last 4 years, we we even prepared. We didn't do any kind of other business, although we were tempted, just to be sure that we can prove we are market leader.
Right.
Our books were very easy to read.
Look, for the past few years, you've actually been in a great position in Romania, right? You could have, in my opinion, easily get some money from a private equity firm or even venture capital to scale outside of Romania, considering your leadership position here.
Yes.
The tech stack looked good, your P&L, I'm sure it looked fine, and yet you wanted to do the exit path. You wanted to get it acquired.
Yes, and I remember I went to How to Web.
Yeah.
And I started to get some. I wanted to get some experience to pitch, and then the pandemic came, and we got in 3 months we got 7 offers.
Full acquisition offers.
Yes.
Right.
Competitors from nearby countries, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
That basically wanted to buy us and close us down. As a leader, I couldn't do that to my team. So we rejected those, and then there was financial investors, and then was strategic investors, and in the end we chose Asseco ICE, which is a listed company, like you said, a strategic investor that is growing. So this company is doing 250 million euros a year. With 40 million profit. This is a subsidiary of Asseco Poland, which is doing 3 billion euros a year. So, enterprise people.
Yeah.
And they focus on banks, on big projects, and so on. And they wanted us because this is their take on going at merchant level. This is how they call it. And we wanted to get into this group because we wanted to become more enterprise. So it was a win-win, and now there's big opportunity for us to grow. And actually, you mentioned I got some questions after we went in Ziarul Financiar and we said we did this transaction. First reaction that I get from Romanians, some of them actually entrepreneurs, were, why did you sell? Didn't the business work well anymore?
This actually happens more often than you can imagine. Some of you guys know that I used to do M&A for a big group. So in Romania, there's sort of a weird perception that you only sell when the company is not doing well. You never sell when you're growing fast. Or you sell because something went wrong, or because you as a character, as an individual, you want the cash out, you want to retire, and then head over to the beach and spend
another perception
a few years there.
And what do you do now with all your spare time? Well, I'm going to work.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I have this opportunity to explain how these deals are done. So initially the company was evaluated based on some KPIs,
right?
And we sold 80%. We sold 80% because this is what this investor typically wants to do,
right?
Okay? And then we have 2 years, and we embarked on a growth, period.
Yeah.
Basically, we sold the company because we were sure we are going to grow, not because the business didn't work anymore. And why we did that? Because we get the multiplier of the growth.
Right.
And this is how the company is reevaluating, and we get the difference on evaluation. And this is, as an entrepreneur, you can get the profit, but if you can get the multiplier of the profit, that's when you know the business is going to grow. I think that's the best time to sell, not when the business doesn't work. But anyway, and this is this part is called the earn-out, right? And then there's me and the CTO still have 20% of the company, so we're shareholders, and we go to work, right? So business as usual, nothing changes. And then there's another part of the transaction where we could sell the 20% if you want to.
Right.
And this is it. But we're interested to stay as long as we can because the business is growing and it's in our interest to be there, right?
For sure.
Implicated.
That being said, it's now even more of a balancing act because if up until the exit it was all on you, so the pressure win or lose, it was all on you. Right now you need to balance out on one side the mother company strategy, incentives in the short and long term, right? Their way of doing business, how well they're procedurized, and how the organization is structured, and then you have to find the right the right balance with your people as well, because you grew your team in your own way. You've had your own trials and tribulations, your own wins and losses, so it's a bit of a balancing act in the beginning. Would you say that you're out of this initial balancing act, or are you still powering through it?
Well, I hear all these stories about the turmoil after the acquisition that can happen, and
from experience, I can tell you that that's usually the hardest part, because the acquired company, they have a level of fear because they are the ones who are acquired, so they are the ones who need to be integrated, and then there is fear on the other side as well, because there's plenty of things that can go wrong, and then the acquisition can turn sour, meaning you've already spent the money, but you're not getting the upside of what you spend the money on, right? So that initial period is...
Well, I think we were lucky enough to choose the right deal, because Asseco IC has experience with this kind of transactions. I mean, for instance, during our M&A period, I had a chance to talk to big competitors from other countries. For instance, we talked to the leader of the market in Poland, right? And they didn't do any acquisitions by the time. We were the first potential acquisition for them. And it was clear that their expectations about what we can do together were false. They wanted us to be just as them from day two. And I can see where you're coming from. I mean, if we need to change everything that we do in just 2 months so that the buyer can be confident he did the right thing, then that could be stressful. But our group has experience with this kind of deals, and I can tell you, I don't feel any big interventions. Actually, what the procedures and the way we are working now, I feel it like it's know-how for me.
That's really good.
I mean, of course, I don't like everything that we do, but some of the things that we didn't do, we should have done anyway. That doesn't mean I like them.
It's good to have a cold shower from time to time can only be beneficial, right?
But I see that whatever we are doing is good for the company. I mean, and will ensure that we are going to we will get to from 2 million euros a year. Maybe this way we will get to 10. Otherwise, I don't see how we could have gotten to 10 if we didn't do that. So. It's all good in my opinion, and I have to say this as an advice for other entrepreneurs, that choosing strategic investors is a big thing, because although they don't understand 100% what your business is doing, they understand 80%, and this compared to financial investors, we just look at your EBITDA and that's it. It's a big difference for us, because we can talk about the product, we can get advice. It's not only financial, and basically we're adding our product to a big product portfolio, and these guys know what they're doing. To do 250 million a year, it means you know your trade.
Was it weird for you to shift the position from the head of the company to an employee in a company?
A little bit, of
A little
course.
bit. What was the first day like?
And actually, I'm more of a leader than a manager, and was concerned about what the attitude of my team would be. And together with the investor, which I repeat has experience with these kind of things, we did a town hall immediately after the transaction. When they came to Bucharest, actually our transaction was made 99% on conf calls, because there was the pandemic and everything. And they came to Bucharest and they said, Radu is still the boss here. Okay. And, nice to meet you and everything. But they reinforced my position so that, because otherwise, since, entrepreneurs ask, why did you sell? The team could have, the same attitude. I mean, would you go? No, I'm not going anywhere.
But in summary, right now, you have somewhat of a privileged position. So accounting for the turmoil where we find ourselves in again, the new advent of online selling. We have people who want to start dropshipping right out of high school. We have, the teleshopping group that's slowly coming about. So we have all of these interesting aspects, and right now you're, at least in my opinion, in a better, safer position to cover the market with whatever the market needs. Because now you're not by yourselves anymore, where you have to spend only from your profit or get loans from banks or go out and get investments. But now you have a strong partner who believed in you and in your team. And I think that's new wind in your sails.
Yeah, actually, it is. I'm starting to adapt to that because I'm not used to having a big brother that could help. Normally, we had to, make ends meet on ourselves, and I'm starting to like this because, for instance, even though we don't have a big budget for hiring somebody, if we see somebody that we really like in the market, then we can raise a hand and say, I want some help. I want to
I want to get this guy or
this
that
guy because or girl because she's the best, and I think she'll be worth in the long run. We can get help with that. But as I said, I'm still and actually our management structure now has all kinds of processes that we borrowed from the mother company.
Right.
Like, for instance, a big respect for product development. I mean, we did product development, but it was in a rather entrepreneurial method.
Right.
Now we adopted a
slightly more structured,
a mature method that
I'm
actually
begging you, please
allows
don't tip it all the way there. So don't overcorrect, because as a product guy, if you move too much into the structure space where everything's based on the process, and you get people obsessed about the process and not obsessed about the product, then you've overcorrected.
I totally understand, but I'm fascinated about the way product development is done at a higher level, because we did features, but sometimes we did features based on feeling. I mean,
right.
I think this is going to work, and there's a formula for feeling.
Yeah.
For instance, this feeling means that we're going to do 3 times the money in 5 years. Yes, okay. So then we can do it. But this comes along with maturity, which we didn't have, and we got it like instantly. Years of experience we got in right then when we started to integrate to the mothership, like you said.
So now you're post-exit, you have your eyes set out on quite a big mission, because as you're integrating with the mothership, you still wanna be valued on the multiplier and get the, if I may say so, big payday, right?
Yeah.
That's coming. How do you set your priorities straight if you have to choose to focus today, for example, between something strategic and something that's more tactical, on the integrational side? How do you separate the grander vision from the day-to-day? Because the game is different now. It's not only you at the table.
But the game is not that different from before. The difference is that we were aiming to be profitable even before. I mean,
Sure.
same kind of reasoning about what to develop, what not, what's to customize the project and what not, and so on. This didn't change a lot. We have to be, we have to have a close eye on costs. This
I would
is
have
typical.
expected this to change a bit actually, because look, if I have a larger pool of resources, right, I can think further ahead than I would have done it normally. Because if I'm focused on the day to day, even if I'm trying to achieve profitability, right, I look at my limited resources, and the question I'm posing is, what can I accomplish with the resources I have today, right, and what are some of the bets I can make?
Yes.
Right. That's how you look at the moves. If all of the sudden overnight, more or less, your pool of resources increases, and not just resources here I'm not talking about manpower or cash flow, but I'm talking about brain power, so strategy, the leaders from the other company who can have either the network or the know-how to leverage some some multipliers for you. Now the game is different. Now it's I'm setting the goal, right, and I'm applying the resources I have towards that goal. So it's no longer the direction of the decision making is sort of changes a bit, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we got speed.
Yeah.
ContentSpeed has more speed now. But
I like how that sounds.
I got used to it. I mean, I have
Do you feel you're pampered now?
last 2 years. I mean, 2022 and 2021, we got speed because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a normal continuity for that. But it's true what you say. We got access to high-profile people that have contacts and that can help us with different things. Now we're trying to do some business in Spain, another project in Portugal.
So the chessboard
Yeah,
suddenly is
larger. I have a broader horizon now. But I was hoping for that. I mean,
Sure.
This is why we did everything, even the transaction and so on. And now we're trying to, leverage everything that you have, but still, objective is to generate profit. So
Radu, today, what's different about today's turmoil than what happened back in 08 or 09?
You mean the crisis?
Yeah. Look, here's my position, and sorry to interrupt. Let me just preface it. So. I'm not bubble boy. I'm not shouting, hey, there's a bubble. I'm not saying that there's a crisis. What I'm seeing is in the market, there's a lot of fear, right? A lot of sitting around waiting, just watching what happens.
Yeah.
But this in turn...
Sorry.
No problem. So this in turn, drives some fundamental changes in the market. People are more worried as to how they spend their money. Instead of having 20 people applying for a job, now you have 50 or 100 people applying for the same gig than you used to have like 2 months ago. So the changes are already here. Whether or not they're driven by something real, by an actual bubble that burst, or a crisis, or inflation, or the Ukrainian conflict, whatever the case might be, we're seeing some effects in the market. So something is happening, something is here today.
Yeah, it's true. I can already feel that there's more people applying for our job ads. So that's true, and we really welcome that because we're growing now, and we really needed that. But last 3 months were a little bit shaky. I mean, Romanian businesses wanted to see what's going on in Ukraine and so on. And that slowed down a little bit our growth. Also, my information says that there was some kind of decrease in terms of B2C sales for number one store in Romania, but we can see that for some of our clients as well. Long-term usage, consumer goods decreased. But
we're seeing it across the board.
By probably 30-40%, which is big. But this decrease started in October last year, so it didn't happen overnight. But in my opinion, e-commerce is still growing. I mean, the pandemic proved that e-commerce is a viable business, a viable channel for sales. and companies already made the decision to do that, and they're on the way, and we will see growth. What we won't see is that unicorn evaluations that some of the e-commerce platforms got on the US stock exchange, for instance, which were inflated. I mean, even Amazon had to be corrected a little bit because offline sales still exist, right? But the percentage of e-commerce out of total retail, in my opinion, will continually grow.
That's a trend that cannot be stopped. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But that being said, what does that mean for you guys? Because you're still looking to grow further into Romania, solidify your position even further.
Yeah.
At the same time, you're experimenting with other countries and you have some moves there. What I feel like we're lacking in this region is we need success stories of local brands, not technical brands, but local either apparel, electronics, or some local brands who would make it up big. So, for example, in UK they have Gymshark, which is an apparel company started by a kid in his high school or early college years. He started dropshipping sports apparel from China. He branded it quite well. He managed to do some influencer marketing before influencer marketing was a thing, and now it's the fastest growing company in UK, and it's an apparel company, right? And they sell online using Shopify. So even at this stage, they're making billions a year, right? And they're still on Shopify, right? And what I feel we're lacking in the region is driven entrepreneurs who would want to take over spots like that. So why not have an apparel company that's worth billions who came out of Hungary? Why not have a large, I don't know, jewelry house, competing with the likes of Pandora or whoever coming out of Bulgaria?
Well, the problem is scale, if you ask me. So we can first look at total population, right? I mean, the UK is big.
And I'm coming back to this. No, I'm coming back to this. Always think global from day one. Here's the story I'm telling everybody.
Yeah,
right.
This is what I'm pitching our clients as well. We had this kind of success in Romania together. Why not we go to nearby countries?
Right.
Try to replicate this success, and they are starting to open up to this, but especially the young ones. The millennials.
Right. Gen Zs too. They're coming.
Yeah.
They're coming.
I actually have to say that I love them. And we have a big bet on Gen Zs as team members.
Really?
Right now, yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, in my opinion, they are a lot like Gen Xers, like us, in terms of what they think about work, right, and how they approach different
They have better signatures than you guys. You guys always do like best regards, and they always do like I hate you.
Yeah, but I really see a nice change in terms of what we can do. Initially, when the pandemic came, we wanted to switch to only experienced people, right? Because we were getting big clients, and we didn't have time to do lots of onboarding and so on, which is fine. Our team now has important new people in this area, but now we're focusing rather on Gen Zs, right? Which are eager to learn, right? And of course they know everything about e-commerce. We're basically born with it.
It was bred in them.
Yeah, and we're adopting them and teach them. We're starting growing people again.
So, if you can disclose or discuss about this openly, what are some of the bets you're making for the next 18 months? Whether there's going to be a turmoil, another pandemic response, whatever will happen in the next 18 months, that's shaky.
B2C sales. There will be some kind of decrease. Right. I don't know if this will take 18 months, maybe only, I'm hoping for less than a year.
Okay. But here's the question. If B2C sales are dropping because people are more careful with how they spend their discretionary income or whatever the case might be, if that's dropping, isn't it a good time for challengers to appear, right? Because as the market is contracting, even if you're not selling, being aggressive and getting a sort of market share now is easier than a couple of years from now.
We're actually one of our most important projects now is something like this. So the owner of Romstal hired us to do the project. The PR launch will be soon. It's called soulline.ro, and they are going into the market of Vivre, for instance.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there's some trouble there. I don't know if you know, and there's a big opportunity now. So, as you said,
that's they need to be aggressive with it.
Yes, but as you said, there's this decrease in sales is opportunity for new players, which have a lightweight structure of costs, and they start fresh with no history and so on. But this is still a big investment needed here. So it's not the high school student that you mentioned that does drop shipping.
I think that there's a space for them as well. So from where I'm looking is challengers will always be needed, and challengers are mostly needed in times of turmoil.
But this is
and challengers, they don't need resources to challenge. It's in their nature to challenge.
For me as an entrepreneur, I'm thinking of crisis as an opportunity, because when there's no crisis, established businesses are keeping a strong grip on the market. When there's crisis, then smaller businesses are more flexible. They can get ahead. If there's no crisis, no small businesses can get ahead, if you ask me.
So let's talk about the future a bit. Maybe it's going to be maybe it's going to be, I don't know, light at the end of the tunnel. It remains to be seen. But what are some of the opportunities you're looking into?
Are you referring to me as an investor or?
As an investor on one side, as an entrepreneur, as a seasoned entrepreneur on the other side, and as one of the leaders of the e-commerce space in Romania. So you can give me 3 separate answers on that.
Well, as an entrepreneur in Romania, we're looking at buying and consolidating the market.
Okay.
I have to be blunt about this. Now because we have this support from the group, we can afford to do this and, diversify our offering for e-commerce services, e-commerce platforms, and so on.
Can you talk about this? What exactly are you looking to diversify? So what are some of the features you have an eye out for?
Well, there's, for instance, there's open source platforms, right?
Yeah.
And we see that there's an opportunity there in terms of transforming open source to SaaS.
Yeah.
Now I've said it, but I'll leave it at that, if I may. As an investor, I would choose crazy ideas, like e-commerce was.
It was a crazy idea back in the day, for sure.
Nobody believed that there will be so much business done through e-commerce.
Do you have any crazy ideas worth mentioning?
Yes, I have to.
But I wanted it to be crazy.
I'm not sure if that's that crazy, but I'm looking into DNA sequencing.
Okay.
I think it
like CRISPR or something on top of it.
I think it will be a big part of healthcare in the future, and right now it's not.
So tailored medicine.
Yes, based on DNA sequencing.
Yeah.
And this is one thing, and I'm looking also into cleaning up the planet.
Yeah.
You being a millennial should appreciate that. And I know that there's ways to get the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere.
Right.
And I'm looking to invest into that somehow.
Into carbon storage facilities?
So
deep underground or compacting,
compacting.
Right?
This is my interest.
Repurposing carbon at all? Or...
If possible, but at least getting it out of the atmosphere, because I don't see, I have 2 kids, and I want to make sure that they're going to experience things that we did.
On a personal note, because you brought the question to kids, so you've been at it for a while. How did you manage to balance home life and raising a couple of kids with raising CS, which is the 3rd kid or the 1st kid? It's the 1st kid, I think.
It was the 1st, yeah. Well, I tried to keep a balance, and although it isn't that easy, whenever I did too much business, then I dedicate some time to the family and so forth. And if you ask me, even the transaction that I did, is basically motivated by the fact that I want to spend more time with my family.
How was the pandemic for you in that case? Because you were at least for a while, for a couple of months, you were forced to spend more time with them.
Cool, it was very nice, but we decided that we should move from a city apartment to a house because we needed more space then, and I'm happy to report that even after the pandemic, we still enjoy living in the countryside.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this is about us. This is about it for us. Do you have anything you'd like to plug now towards the end of the talk?
I don't know. You've said...
I'm putting you on blast, so whatever you want to promote now, this is your time.
To promote
something? To promote, put it on blast.
I don't want to promote it.
You don't want to promote anything?
I already did, actually, during the talk. But thanks. That's it. There's nothing more.
My friend, it's been a pleasure to have you on board. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you.